Hello, Logan here, still with Doom Digital, unbelievably, joined by Apps, and we are doing a review, and I say we, it is probably more likely Apps, but I've seen him play most of it, of Shadow of the Colossus. Apps, how you doing?
Good, thanks, you.
Yeah, good. Still happy to be part of Doom Digital, despite not really doing much since the World Cup, have we? Well, I haven't.
It's good. No one has, in all honesty. No one's done anything. But it's good fringe benefits, so people stay on board and typically don't leave. Sir Dave's had a bit of a wavering. He's sort of trying to promote his own YouTube channel and start his own Twitch channel and whatnot. And that's not really taken off for him, so he'll be back. But in general, it has been a big slowdown. But we're hitting that stage of the year where, for games anyway, it starts getting fucking busy. So
yeah, certainly is. Over the next couple of months, there's going to be plenty going on.
Exactly.
But back to today's review then. So, Shadow of the Colossus. Give us your cards on the table and a quick rundown.
Yeah, well, it's a remake of the original PlayStation 2 version. So that was released 2005 and 2006. So 2005 in the US, and then we got it over here in 2006. But this is a full-blown remake of Shadow of the Colossus, and it's actually the third version of the game. So you've got the original, then you had a HD remaster for PlayStation 3. So this is now the third kind of iteration of Shadow of the Colossus. And I have actually played through the HD remaster on that god-awful PlayStation Now service. So you know that streaming service they offer?
That you're a big fan of?
No. I don't know why they don't do it like Game Pass. Download the game, let me play it, and we're all laughing.
No, you've got it wrong. What you really want to be able to do is stream it.
Yeah.
Stream those games.
It was just about playable on that, just because of the lag and the general inconsistencies with streaming a fucking video game over the internet. But I could tell it was you could tell it was a great game at that point. But performance-wise, whether it is the lag or whether it is this because it was an old game and the frames weren't quite there, it wasn't really up to scratch. And I think with this remake, they wanted to kind of create a definitive version of it. And at this day and age, they've got all the tools at their disposal to do that. So Blue Point Games, famous for some of their remasters and whatnot, picked this up and now it's out in amongst the world.
Yeah, sounds about right. So, I mean, obviously I watched it. I won't be reviewing it, but the story, I mean, rich backstory, loads to do, plenty of side quests. Well,
could be further from the truth, could it? Well, essentially, the story itself is good. It's excellent, really, but it's just told in quite an unconventional and bare bones way, which in some ways is appreciated. There's barely kind of any cutscenes in it. There's not a great deal of dialogue. It's all very minimalistic, which I kind of think suits the atmosphere and the tone of the game, where it's all a bit scaled back. It's like a big open world to sort of travel on. But there's not really much in the world. But generally, I think the story itself, despite it not kind of giving you the full picture straight away, and despite it not telling you step by step what's going on, there's not exactly named characters here. It's just, it kind of sets up a scenario for you which you can easily relate to, and it's easily told without using much dialogue. And then you're left off to go and work through the campaign, and there's bits and pieces, and then the story develops as you complete your tasks. But it's a bit of a weird one, but I think overall it's good. I enjoyed the different kind of style of storytelling. It's a little bit different, and something that I think doesn't have to be in every game. You don't have to have full blown cutscenes or loads of text to read and things. It's just it knows what it's trying to do and it sticks to it, and I think it works well.
Yeah, it's something that I've been banging the drum for a little while. Is I think everyone wants too much of these games nowadays. Like, obviously we've got Red Dead coming up, and can you imagine if Red Dead come out and there was no side quests, or you couldn't interact with the bar staff, or everyone wants this increasing level of depth in a game now. and it was weird for me watching it, because I remember when I was watching it, I was thinking, right, am I just missing something here? It's like even when you were with them lizards,
Yeah.
like it's as simple as that. Like you just want the tail, right? Well, what does the tail do? Well, it does this.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you any of this.
No.
It's something you sort of just discover, and I kind of appreciate that in an increasing world where everything's got a tutorial to start with for 2 hours, where you learn the ropes, you learn all the different combinations, all the how to do everything. Whereas this kind of just chucks you out there and goes, work it out. If you don't, you can still play the game without doing that, but just go and do what you need to do. And if you find some secrets, you feel a little bit more, I guess, you feel better about yourself rather than being told it's exactly here. Finding things is a lot more dynamic and feels good to find a little secret or find a route or something like that without being told how to do it. And it kind of, if I look at something like Breath of the Wild, Zelda on the Switch, that takes that approach as well, where it kind of, it gives you an overview of what you need to do and doesn't necessarily say it's directly here. Go off and explore and you'll find other things along the way, hopefully.
I think with the way the game looks and the way it's structured, it kind of lends itself to you naturally exploring it. And I suppose that leads into how it's presented and how it performs. I mean, I think when I was looking at it, I thought it was a beautiful game. It felt to me like it was there for you to go out and find the creatures. So what was your take?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's good that you thought it looked well on Twitch, because it was being downscaled onto like 720p resolution. Obviously, I don't think the streaming's that good on Twitch, in all honesty. I know people swear by it, but I've never...
Yeah,
I've watched...
other gaming platforms are available.
Yeah, there are other ones. Other YouTubes. Maybe we should try that, see how that goes. But in general, you're probably getting the worst experience of it. But having, I'm sitting here playing it in the flesh, and with a PlayStation 4 Pro, you kind of get two options. You get a 4K mode, which is 30 frames per second, and a 60 FPS mode. I think they're at 1080p. I stuck with 4K mode. And
cool.
I did play around with the 60 FPS mode, but I kind of just preferred the more, the more detailed textures, I guess. But both modes look great. And if you compare it to the original, or even the HD remaster going back, they've done a really good job. It's astounding. The originals in both senses were very barren in terms of landscape. There wasn't much grass there. Even it was just like a blank sort of green texture. Here you've got actual grass coming out and foliage, and they've really kind of brought this world to life. And the upgrades in lighting and just the textures look so much better. It really it pushes this game into the current generation in terms of its looks, which I think is sort of like one of the strategies for the game. Make this look like a PlayStation 4 game, and they did, and it looks fantastic. Yeah,
I mean, if I didn't know that it was a PS2 game, I'd have never clocked.
No.
Obviously, I did know it, and I knew it was a remake. But if you'd have come to me and gone, "That's brand new for the PS4," I'd have gone, "Yeah."
Yeah.
But it fools you easy as that. So I thought it looked great. I thought, as I say, it was smooth. It didn't look outdated at all, which is a credit to what they've done, I think. But in terms of the game's structure, I think we've briefly mentioned it's kind of open world-ish, but with a linear aspect. But that's how I saw it. But I mean, you can tell the guys a bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I could sit here and talk you through the game in detail and waffle, but essentially it's a boss rush game. Like, you can freely explore the world. So there's a world you're presented with, and it's it's got all different types of environments. It's got a desert, it's got forests, all sort of that. You can ride around on your horse freely. You can go off and there's nothing really to do, but you can just go to places whenever you want to. And we briefly mentioned there are kind of small RPG elements to it where you can increase your health if you shoot fruit off a tree and pick it up and eat it. That'll increase your maximum health bar. Or if you get the lizard's tails that are found on the shrines, that'll increase your grip, which is useful for when you're scaling the big beasts. So you can run off and do that to your heart's content until you've got all that. But in order to progress, you have to visit, the direction of where the Colossi is. So you use your sword, you hold it up in the light, and it will direct a beam of light towards where you need to go in that general direction. There's a map, but it doesn't show you where you actually need to go. And then you can travel there at your leisure and take on the boss. You kill, or you do kill that boss. You have to. It's the only way to progress. And then you're taken back to a central point in the map, and then you go again until there's none left in your path. So that's a real kind of bare bones look at it, and it doesn't really need any interesting or upgraded debate on it. It is what it is. You go from A to B, and then you go back to C, and then you go to A to B and C again, and you kind of follow that loop, and you take on each of these creatures. They're all interesting creatures. They're huge in their scale, and they've all got a different way of defeating them. So they're almost like big moving puzzles that can kill you. So yeah, that's the general kind of loop for it, and they'll get more difficult as time goes on, and hopefully you can get to the end of it.
Yeah, I think one of the things to mention is certainly when I was watching it it looked like the scale is the one thing it does well. I say one of the many things it does well, but one of the striking things is how big the creatures look. I mean, I know it sounds stupid, but they really do master that scale piece well. I mean, every time we saw one, I went, "Cool, he's a big old boy." And as I say, it does sort of make you go, "Bloody hell, that's a big creature." But I suppose in terms of how you progress, you briefly touched on it. You have to go from one of those to another. But I think in terms of gameplay and controlling it, I think at times it looked. I would class it as stressful. Yeah.
It's not the wrong way to describe. I mean, they're fine, but and they're serviceable. You run around and you're fine. But this was the source of the frustration of the game because it takes
and my pleasure.
Yeah, and you loved it, but there was a lot of frustration going on at times because I get frustrated with every game I play. It's just that you don't often see it because it's not streamed. This one was streamed, and but sometimes it requires a very specific jump or a very certain and deliberate action to get to where you need to go without falling off and restarting and that sort of nonsense. But the controls are very floaty, and they lack a little bit of response or bite to them. So like I said, when you're confronted with these colossi, and like we said, they are absolutely huge, and we've said the scale of these things are very impressive, but the first thing you really want to try and do is get on the thing, and trying to work that out can be a source of annoyance because the controls aren't quite as tight or responsive as they need to be sometimes, and the camera sometimes gets in a right old flap and can put you in some diabolical situations. And all this time, there's this big giant trying to tread on your head. So it's infrequent, but in the heat of battle, it can get on your goat. And it got on my goat a couple of times. But, there's always things like that in games. It's like I said, that you 90% of the time it's fine, but there are areas where you just think, God, that's frustrating when you miss something. And it's only because you're panicking and you're in that stressful situation. If that was just me jumping without this big thing swinging at me, I wouldn't make hardly any mistakes. But because you panic, and because it does require a sense of, a real good piece of platforming at times, the controls just sometimes are a little bit floaty, so you can get it wrong quite easily. But in general, it's fine. You get on the colossi, you find its weak spots using your sword again, stab it in the head, get out of dodge, and get onto the next one. And once you've kind of mastered that basic approach, you'll get through most of them. But it's the best part of it is being presented with one of these colossi and then figuring out how to take it down. And then there's usually things in the environment that you can use, or there's other bits and pieces. And obviously I won't spoil any, but yeah, it's good in that sense. And the way that the mechanics work are serviceable for that. Just don't expect it to be as tight as you might expect. And I think that might be the game showing its age a little bit, because although they've built this from the ground up, it's still running on the same original code base. So the actual all the AI and the Colossi and the controls all still feel the same. It's obviously just been spruced up with the frame rates and the graphical enhancements. And I think that's probably where it shows its age a little bit, is in the controls and just how dodgy they can feel sometimes.
Yeah, that's probably one of the things that I noticed, or that I was going to bring up, was that I thought you can almost cover up or put a bit of window dressing around it, but the actual mechanisms and everything behind it is still the same. So
yeah,
and I think the AI looked a little bit. I mean, it has to be, but it's a little bit rigid, and it's a little bit. I won't use the word thick, but it's not the most intelligent thing you've ever seen, if that makes sense. They sort of do the same motions or the same repetitive actions, and that, without spoiling it, there's one moment where you get knocked on the floor, or in a couple of them you get knocked down, and then it doesn't really at times give you much of a chance to get up and reset. And I think the stuff like that, I think, right, that should really be ironed out, because that is it looks a little bit clunky, I think. Then that's what I thought. I thought, right, well, it's hit you once, you get up, and before you can get up, it's knocked you down. I was like, right, well, that should have been found out and sorted, really. But that was it. Other than that, that's the only thing that I saw in it. But I think, as I say, it generally looks pretty good, and most of the time you were able to do what you wanted. There were a couple of times when it didn't, and that's when you got irate. But
yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that particular moment when I got trapped on the floor by one and it kept hammering me. I mean, I got out of it. I didn't die, but I was very close to. I don't know whether it was through luck or whatever, but despite all of the stressful moments, I actually didn't die taking on any of the Colossi themselves. Got very close to that one time, but I still was. It's quite generous in that respect. It's just sometimes it's difficult to get where you need to go, and if you fall off at a prime moment through something that is probably, it's normally your fault because you've not held on, or you've used all your grip somewhere else and you've not recharged it. But sometimes when you're jumping from place to place, that's when it can feel a little bit dodgy. But fortunately, most of the game you don't really need to be relying on it. It's just a few instances that if you get it wrong, you could be in for a tough time.
Yeah, would agree with that. So in terms of value, do you think that this game on the PS4 is good value?
Depends what you're looking to get out of a game. If you want, I don't know, a 25-hour plus open world with checkbox exercises and side quests, this really is not the game for you. But if you want to play a great video game, enjoy the story, the challenge, and also the wonder of how to defeat these Colossi, then there's no reason why you shouldn't pick this up, because it's priced reasonably. It's not priced at the full price. I believe when it came out, it was widely available for 25 UK pounds. So probably less now if you're looking for that. And yes, it's short. It seemed short when you watched me play it, but you have to remember I knew what I was doing for most of those bosses. If you're playing that the first time through and you've got no idea, you spend a good time feeling it out and trying different things. So it's probably closer to a 10 to 12 hour game on your first playthrough, and then if you enjoyed it, obviously you can unlock things like time attack modes and other bits and pieces that you can go back through for it. But I think in terms of the sort of pleasure you get out of playing through it, I'm not looking for 30 hours of that. It's the perfect length for me, because you can play it in a few sessions and then go back to it if you want to, or you can just put it on the shelf and go, I really enjoyed that, I'm going to walk away. And that's exactly how I felt, even the second time through.
Done it. Move on.
Completed it, mate.
Completed it. So what are your closing thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Shadow of the Colossus, the 2018 remake, it's a classic that's been remade for the modern audience. It retains all of its charm and greatness of the original, and when I say charm, that can mean floaty controls and annoying pieces, whilst bringing it up to speed with current technology. Like I said, there's camera and perhaps control issues that might get up your nose, but when it's all said and done, it's still a fantastic game to play and a fantastic journey. So, great game.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I think we can kind of see where it's going, but the golden question: what is the game's official grading?
So I'm going to give Shadow of the Colossus 2018 remake a 9 out of 10.
Oh,
So that is our gold award here at Dimp Digital. Buy it or bin it dead. So we do 1 to 10. So that's a very good score.
that is a very good score. I'm quite surprised that even despite playing it sort of second time round, obviously it was probably a few years ago you did play the original, but playing it second time round, you still rate it that highly. Obviously it looked great despite the frustrating moments. You still loved it. I mean, I must admit I've really enjoyed watching the stream as well. I mean, I actually text you saying, right, when is this getting finished off? And I almost sort of pressured you into finishing it off, maybe quicker than you would have liked. But I found it really good to watch as well. So I'd recommend anyone who's interested in watching apps play through it goes over to Twitch. I think the clips are still there, and catches up. It was great.
Twitch.tv/Dimp Digital for all your streaming needs.
There you go. A cheeky plug as well, which we haven't done before for the old Twitch channel. But I think we're done here with Shadow of the Colossus. Leave it on that note. Go and have a look for yourself. And in the meantime, thanks for your time and ta-da.